So tell me first, what brought you here to LCS? What's kind of your career journey that led you here?
Well, I never thought that I was going to become a teacher. My bachelor's is in marine science, and then I was planning on going to veterinary school, so I went to a school in Boston to get my veterinary technician license, was working as a veterinary technician, and then I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years while my husband was in residency. I wanted to go to veterinary school. My husband accrued so much debt going to medical school. I was like, we're not going to be doing that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to get back to work. And John was finishing up his residency, and Ben called me and was like, hey, would you guys want to move up here? And I have a perfect teaching position for you. And so I took it.
Wow.
And I've been here for 4 years.
Wait, so just 4 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
Yep. And then I enrolled at UMaine, and now I have a master's in education. I'm certified, but yeah.
Nice. So what led you and it sounded like you, frankly, and the other STEM teacher who's no longer here, whose name I can't remember, to pursue the Rev Innovation Grant? And, yeah.
So we both came to LCS in 2021. He came with a decade of experience, and I was brand new. But we both noticed right away that there was a severe issue with absenteeism and like overall student engagement when they were at school. And so we were commiserating because he was a veteran teacher and I was a new teacher. I'm like, yeah, like, what do you think we could do about that? And he was like, honestly, during the pandemic, after the pandemic, he had done a year, and he was taking his kids outside, and he noticed that they thrived outside. I hiked the Appalachian Trail. I love going outside, so I was like, sure. I jumped at the opportunity. So we built an elective for outdoor learning, an elective class, and we started bringing kids outside the first year that I was here. And then that spring, we both saw an email about the opportunity for the Rev Grant. Came into work that morning, and we have to go for this. And so we wrote up the grant and obviously got it.
That's awesome. How has the grant impacted both your pedagogy and your curriculum?
The Rev Grant allowed us to really develop like the outdoor program of our dreams. And I think it has like defined how I've evolved as a new teacher. When I'm thinking about developing lessons, units, curriculum, I inevitably am thinking, how can I take this, how can there be an outdoor component to what standards we are working on? So it has greatly impacted the way that I design my learning experiences for my students. I think that there's great merit to students not only learning the thing, but also doing the thing and taking them outside, whether it be on our property at the garden or out at the nature trail or the Can-Am dog sled race in Fort Kent or Rustic State Park, taking them out and seeing what they're learning in action, whether they're doing it or seeing somebody else implementing what they're learning.
So sometimes there's some skepticism about outdoor learning, that it's just fun, frivolous recess. Do you think outdoor learning can be as rigorous as classroom learning?
I think so, definitely. There is a classroom component to everything that we're doing. They do sit down and we do like classic lectures, right? But then we go and apply that in some way where they get to go outside, get fresh air, move their bodies, and have a firsthand experience in what they have learned in the classroom. So yeah, I think that they're...
Why do you think it's so important for particularly middle school students, perhaps, to engage in outdoor recreation and learning?
Being outside the studies show that it's good for everybody to get outside for their physical and their mental well-being. Middle schoolers today in particular, I think they kind of contend with the influence of technology, and we all are probably guilty of being a little bit addicted to our phones and our screens. So I think for middle schoolers, when they're first getting their personal phones, I think it's important that they also have some experiences where they're getting exposed to hobbies that don't involve that technology and being plugged in all the time. So yeah.
As a Mainer, and I think did you grow up in Maine?
I did. I grew up in Brunswick.
Oh, great. As a Mainer, do you think there's a special opportunity or responsibility we have to engage in this kind of education?
Of course, Maine, obviously, we have beautiful woods and waters to protect. So taking kids outside and building an appreciation for our land is going to build towards a generation of stewards that will help safeguard that resource and land that we have.
That is well done. What should be the role of play and joy in education?
In an ideal world, in a perfectly built curriculum, kids would be so joyful in their learning experience, they would forget that they were learning. Obviously, we don't live in an ideal world, but I think it's incredibly important to consider that kids they don't want to sit and be bored. And I do take stock in their complaints, oh, this is boring. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, I don't take offense, but I'm like, how can I make this a little bit more fun and entertaining for them? Not that they also have to learn that sometimes you gotta sit down and do your math. But I think that as teachers, working towards that the kids are enjoying what they're doing, because then they're gonna they want to be, sorry.
That's okay.
I want them to enjoy what they're doing, because then they want to come here and they may see more value in what they're doing, and they're not like, oh, why am I doing this? I think that's the bane of all teachers' existence. Why do we have to learn this? Mm-hmm. So trying to kind of navigate all of that and just hopefully circumvent all those questions, because it's such a great lesson and learning experience for them.
So why are the 8th grade engaged in soil testing currently?
So we are in the process of developing our school garden, and crops have not been grown on that piece of property in quite some time. So we want to test our soil mineral particle ratios, our pH, our micro and macronutrient levels. So that's what they've been working on. So we actually sent a soil sample to the University of Maine Soils Lab and got all of our nutrient values that they then had to analyze. So they know exactly how we need to amend our soil to grow the best crops that we can.
Oh, cool. So that you'll be doing some of that soil amendment before you plant, or?
Yeah, so we know how much, so we actually discovered that we have acidic soil, and we have a lot of clay in our soil, and we have micronutrient levels are good, but we have very low nitrogen levels. So the 8th graders today know what specific amendments we need to make in order to remedy that. And so they're going to share that information with the 6th graders. And then we're going to get all the compost and the lime and the manure, and we're going to amend the soil next week, and so we can get to planting.
So you've been doing this for a couple of years. What's your sense of how the outdoor science curriculum has impacted your students?
I think I'll use an anecdote here. I actually started in the 5th and 6th grade position, and then moved up into the 7th and 8th position. So the 8th graders this year I've had for 4 years. There's a boy in that 8th grade class who had no interest in going outside. He complained every time I said we were going outside for a lesson. And yesterday, after our maple party, he was the last kid in the room putting his iPad away. And he's like, hey, Miss Caroline. I was like, yeah. He said, thank you so much for letting us do that today and for letting us make maple syrup.
That's great. Is there other evidence that you can point to? I mean, I know you probably don't have attendance stats or anything, but anything else that feels like evidence that this is working?
We actually do have, I can't quote our attendance stats, but we do keep track of that. And on days where we are doing something big outside, our attendance, we've noticed a trend in the data that kids come to school. And kids will tell us, yeah, the only reason I came to school today is because there's ski club. Or we're going out to the nature trail. But again, we wrote the grant to help kids want to come to school and be engaged when they're at school. And I think we are meeting that goal. They're telling us that they are.
So you've had the guys for 4 years. How have you seen them grow and change?
So CJ is someone in particular. The first time I said we were going to go out in the wintertime on snowshoes, he cried. And he may tell you about this today. And I was giving him so much encouragement. He's like, I can't do it. I'm short. I'm small. I'm like, you can do anything. We're going to do this together. And so we went and hiked the nature trail. And on the way back, he was flying. And he flew past me. And he's like, Miss Caroline, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And now he's one of my star outdoor learning students. He loves to go outside. He was outside in a t-shirt today. He is engaged. He would come to school and have his head on the table when we were in the classroom, but bring him outside and he perks right up and he's ready, willing, wanting to learn. And that's a trend that is throughout my students, I think.
Is there a project that has felt like it's clicked the most for you, where it's like this represents the kind of learning I'm hoping to do, and it's happening?
The maple sugaring this year was incredible. I was able to pull in a bunch of science standards and a bunch of math standards into that unit for the 8th graders, and we went through in painstaking detail the process of how to tap a tree and how to boil our sap down. But for 2 weeks, we had terrible weather in February, at the end of February. So we did all
Wait a second, there's terrible weather
Imagine.
at the end of February in Maine, in the county.
So we were stuck inside with dangerous conditions. So they did get a little annoyed with me by the end of the 2 weeks. We're like, we're ready to get outside. So we tapped in mid-March, and I was like, guys, we got to put in the legwork. We got to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And by the time we went outside in mid-March, I basically was just, all right, guys, go identify the maple trees. You've got the drills you need to tap. They knew what they were doing. And again, the classroom component was finished. Took them outside to apply what they had been learning for 2 weeks, and everybody was gung-ho. They were ready to go and excited. We actually went to the property of one of our 8th graders' families, and they have a bunch of maple trees, so we tapped 15 there, and they loved going there. Mostly, I think they liked petting the dogs, but but we tapped 18 trees, and they collected all the sap, and this was all them. They knew how to boil, how to monitor our density and sugar content. They knew how to set up our evaporator, and we worked on boiling sap for 2 weeks. And we had moved on to other things, but we would just go outside with our other work and sit around the evaporator all day because it's a lot of boiling. But then to see, so we canned all of our syrup, and then yesterday we had our maple party for the whole school. So to see it from the boring classroom work to them getting to share the product of their labor and their learning was really meaningful.
That's awesome. Anything else I should know about Serenity or CJ? I think the CJ I think you've hit, but anything else about Serenity? What's she like, and how she's been impacted by your curriculum and approach?
Again, Serenity, she had never gone horseback riding or skiing, and those have become things that she loves to do. Again, trying to get kids exposed to different healthy lifestyle hobbies that they can take into adulthood. So I think she is somebody who has found at least 2 things that she will carry with her beyond LCS's outdoor club. And she is a brilliant student, and she's, as you probably could tell by speaking with her, and she loves she would be fine. She's somebody who, if we were just learning from a textbook, she would do okay. She would do well, and she would be okay. But going outside, she's somebody who's going to sit down, get her work done because she wants to do well. She is intrinsically motivated, but taking it outside, I feel like elevates her learning experience in a way that I don't think she had ever quite experienced. Like, oh, I get to go now. I can do all the book work and I can learn all these things. Here's how I can use it. And I think it's kind of primed her brain for thinking about, hey, like I could do anything with what I'm learning.
Why and how do you integrate math and science?
So I have a heavy science background, and unfortunately you cannot do science without math. So I think that the two content areas pair very well together. Just yesterday with the bike lab, the kids were collecting data for their speed, velocity, and acceleration. So I think you guys had left at this point, but then we came back inside and they had to start their calculations for all of that. And yeah, pretty much every time, I don't think, there are some life science things that we do that may not integrate a lot of math, but we're doing a ton of math in our science classes. And I try to make it try to draw in what we're learning about in math class.
What are you most proud of with what you've done with the middle school outdoor science?
I think most proud of. I'm not somebody like to do my own work. I'm proud of the kids, obviously. I'm proud of taking a chance and we didn't think that we would get the grant, so going through that entire process and putting in the work, having the dream, and then seeing it it's still budding. We're still obviously in the nascent stages of it, but it's coming to fruition and we see the kids are enjoying it, and the school's culture is changing in a way that kids know, like in K through 4, they know when they get to middle school, they're going to be going outside. So we're the group that goes outside to learn, and they get excited about it.
So the Children in Nature Network asserts nature makes kids healthier, happier, and smarter. Would you agree?
I 100% agree.
Yeah, so tell me why.
I mean, going outside, inherently, they're going to be moving their bodies. So they're physically going to get healthier. Mentally, again, science and studies show that getting outside helps with mental clarity and overall mental health well-being. What was the other one?
Healthier.
And smarter.
Smarter, yeah.
Okay, so smarter, again, studies show that having why can't I think of the term? Not psychomotor, but like a motor component to what they're learning, like moving their body to learn, gives them a more like visceral experience and hands-on experience in what they're learning. So they're more likely to recall that information, having a deeper memory, first-hand memory of what they're learning, more likely to recall that information and make connections.
Excellent, thanks. What would you say to other schools considering making more of an investment in outdoor science?
I mean, obviously the DOE took a chance on us, and we were so lucky to receive that award. And we were able to acquire a lot of resources and equipment. But even if it's just a small investment, just take your kids outside to read. You don't need all this equipment to do it. And I think that if you start there, people will start to see the value in simply just having your class outside helps with their learning, their behavior, their well-being, and yours too.
That's interesting, yours too. How do you think it's impacted your health and wellness and smarts?
Honestly, I don't think I'm ever gonna leave here, because I get to go outside. Well, first of all, they trust me. I get to be creative. They trust me to use my knowledge and my education, and they treat me as a professional, and I get to develop the curriculum that I deem appropriate for my groups, and they trust that I'm hitting all of the standards that are necessary. So I get to be very creative. So I love that part of, I think teachers are creators. We don't just want to read off of a script. And I get to be creative, and I get to be outside, two things that are like, instilled in my personality and like who I am. So I get to, that manifests in my job, and so I'm happy and I'm like coming to work.
Anything else about how the focus on outdoor learning has impacted your view of teaching in kids?
I guess I will say that I was very naive when I came into my classroom, and again, education wasn't my background, so I was very naive. I thought kids were going to come in, it was like when I was in middle school, come in, sit down, be quiet. Even if they weren't paying attention, they'd just pretend. But no, the behaviors and apathy, I think, was unsettling. And so then that's why I spoke with my co-teacher, and he was like, yeah, this is not normal. This is like post-pandemic stuff. And so when we started bringing them outside, they pretty much not all the issues, but a lot of the issues would just go away. We just started like, hey, we're gonna go for a nature walk and ID some stuff. And I saw kids who would just come in, put their head down, fall asleep, or get in fights, and bring them out into nature, like on our nature trail, on our property, a super simple thing, and you see a totally different side of a kid. And they're engaged, and they're curious. Kids are naturally curious. But they have a aversion to the classroom.
And one last question, how do you do it in winter? I see you got the boots
We go
out
outside.
Here. Yeah, so like what works even in the dead of winter in the county?
So that is training them. So starting in the 5th grade, we start teaching them, how do you layer? What are appropriate materials for your clothing? We have been acquiring, we obviously have a beautiful set of boots. We do have shells, we have 30 or 25 jackets that kids can wear. And we make sure that everybody is going to be comfortable, because as we all know, living in Maine, if you're cold, you can't pay attention or really think about anything else. So it really is about educating them on how to appropriately dress. We do a lot of weather checking. Shout out to NOAA. We are on that site all the time. Okay, what's the weather today? Do we feel comfortable going outside? We'll have a conversation about it. So we have buy-in from the students, like a consensus. Okay, let's look at the weather. This is what we have planned outside. How do we feel about it? And usually they say, let's go, even if it's sleeting. I'm like, no way. But to get buy-in from the whole student group, and to make sure that they have the appropriate gear and they're excited to go. So we go out in all sorts of weather. And usually they're happy. Sometimes it's...
Usually they're happy, that's a good part.
I was like, you wanted to come out,
Yeah.
to remind them of that.